Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott, episode 82 for November 7th, 2008. Pocket Paul. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Audible.com. For your free audiobook, visit audible.com/Windows. And by Go to My PC. Wherever you go, access your PC and all your files, programs, and email remotely with Go to My PC. For a free trial of this award-winning service, visit gotomypc.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott is here, the guy who writes the super site for Windows at winsupersite.com. He's the news editor for Windows IT Pro and, of course, the author of Windows Vista Secrets. And here we are in 11.7 talking about Windows 7. I hope you heard our Twit this week. If you didn't listen to Twit 167, go back and listen to it. Great cast. We had Ed Bott, Paul, Rafael Rivera Jr., and we were talking about PDC and stuff. I thought it was just fascinating. We got some really positive comments on that, Paul. Everybody's saying we should do a panel once a month or something on this show because they like all the different voices, and going back and forth and the jollity that ensues.
Yeah. I hear the voices in my head, and it's not the same thing.
The mirth and merriment.
And most of it's not very happy, as it turns out.
We get you a T-shirt that says, I am the voice in my head. We could say
I am. There you go.
I am my mother's.
I was actually listening to it, before we started, and one thing I don't do a lot is go back and listen to any of these because it's painful, to hear my own voice. But I thought it was interesting.
It's an excellent episode. It was fascinating. And I think even people who weren't particularly excited about Windows 7 are now pretty excited about it.
They should be excited about it.
Is WinHEC on now? Wasn't that going to follow hard on the heels of PDC?
Yeah, it happened this week. So the big keynote was Tuesday. They did some Windows 7 stuff then, and on Wednesday they did some Windows Server 2008 R2 stuff. So
PDC is for developers,
right?
WinHEC is for hardware shops.
Yeah, device driver, writers, hardware guys, PC makers, that kind of thing. I talked to someone from Microsoft about this. They did them back to back for the first time. And by the way, for the last time, this was a huge problem for everybody. There were a lot of people that would have gone to both shows if they had been scheduled separately like they usually are. And it's just too expensive, to be in LA for 2 weeks straight, obviously. So they were telling me that this was just an unfortunate circumstance. They wanted to put off WinHEC so they could schedule it around Windows 7. PDC was already happening at the time it was happening, and there just wasn't any other place or time. It just wasn't going to work out, so they didn't have a choice. But that explains why I'm not in Los Angeles this week.
Yeah, because you couldn't take 2 weeks off. Your wife would have killed you.
It would have just been prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
But
Are you missing anything, you think?
No, and this is something I talked to them about because honestly, if it was going to be a big blockbuster deal, I would have done it regardless. But they told me I could safely skip the second one, and they would talk to me on the side about some of the stuff they were going to discuss. But mostly it was a follow-up conversation. And if you watched any of the PDC stuff and then you go back and watch the WinHEC keynote, a lot of it will have sort of a deja vu kind of quality to it because they go over a lot of the same stuff. Although because it's a hardware show, of course, they did focus on some of the hardware-related stuff that's going on with Windows 7. And they did some new stuff. They did a boot comparison that I thought was kind of interesting. They showed Windows Vista and Windows 7 booting on the same PC side by side, and Windows 7 booted more quickly and so forth. They did demonstrations about battery life and so forth. As Ed was discussing on the Twit I was just listening to, they've made a lot of low-level tweaks at every possible point in the OS, and a lot of the tweaks have just resulted in dramatically better whatever, in this case, battery life. So, for example, again, same PCs, you're playing a DVD movie. The Windows 7 PC actually lasts an hour longer on battery. So they have that kind of
That's significant.
Yeah.
So that's by changing not the hardware, but just by changing the software.
Just by really fine-tuning it. Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting. I was, again, just listening to Twit and thinking about this again. Ed was talking about how Windows Vista in many ways was 90% architectural and 10% visual,
right?
Surface stuff, right? And I think that's true, although it's funny to say that, because to most people, when you look at Windows Vista, what you see, of course, is the glass windows and the effects and everything, and you think this is all about prettying the thing up. But actually, that's more like what Windows 7 is,
Right.
Although it's hard to say where to draw the line. I don't think there was a 90-10 split in 7. I think it's more like a 50-50 split, because I think they've done stuff everywhere, right? On the Surface stuff, the UI, the candy, the eye candy stuff, but also below the covers. They're really, really tweaking it, and I think that's what makes Windows 7 really interesting, because everything is getting touched.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking in the show on Sunday about the kernel. Mm-hmm. You guys mocked me.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, actually, to be fair, I don't think we were mocking you so much as the circumstance. I mean, this is something I've brought up. I've gotten in trouble with Microsoft because they hate the phrase new kernel, despite the fact that Windows Vista Service Pack 1 has a new version of the kernel.
Really?
Windows
Even
7,
Service Pack 1 was a new version of the kernel?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, but that's not something they're comfortable discussing, because when you say new version of the kernel, first of all, there's the discussion about what is the kernel.
Right.
And you can get
is it kernel 32.dll? I mean...
It's like, when does life begin, Leo? This is a topic that is
Chicken
above
or
our
the
pay
egg?
grade.
Yes. Good answer.
Because it's not a single file, right? It's not a single thing. It's not even a single, runtime ring, or however you want to describe it. It is the lowest level of the operating system plus some other stuff that run around it.
Right.
One of the big things that's happening in Windows 7 is that when you compare it with previous versions of Windows, they're cutting it off at a much deeper level than they did before. That thing that is the kernel, so to speak, and its support services. Windows Server 2008 has a server core install where they, in sort of a rough way, arbitrarily cut off things at certain points, but they don't do a lot of the up and down componentization where they ensure that things will always fail gracefully or something like that. There is it's sort of a harsher cut. So for Windows 7, one of the things they wanted to do with the so-called MinWin kernel is, make it more elegant, that the lowest level of the system, something that can boot in a very small space and be tested as a unit, would be something that they would be able to achieve in this release. And that's something they did do, and it's something that we now know is, in fact, in Windows 7. The other thing that came out this week around the kernel type stuff, and I should say the low level stuff, and I thought this was interesting. They described the current beta build, the pre-beta build, the M3 build, as API complete, right?
Right.
Not feature complete.
API complete.
API complete.
I don't
and what that
understand.
means is that
mean?
from a developmental standpoint, from a software development standpoint, I guess the various components of the system, even if they're not necessarily truly complete, they will be changed over time. It's all there. And what that suggests is that if you could get into this system at a low level with developer tools, you could figure out what some of the features are going to be. And actually, that's something that Rafael Rivera has been doing. I think it's kind of fun. So for the past few days, he's been releasing stuff off of his website about some of the features that will be coming in Windows 7. I think he talked about one Sunday night, if I'm not mistaken. He figured out how to enable the taskbar that will be in future builds, right? That code is actually in there. It's in the build. It just needs to be exposed. And Microsoft apparently had written some code in there that would prevent the new taskbar from running if you were running outside of the Microsoft corporate domain, for example.
Huh.
So he was able to bypass that. But he's also found some additional features, right? So there's going to be a desktop slideshow feature where the background changes over time to different images, which is fairly obvious, right? You can, check images off in a box and say, I want to rotate between these 5 images. But it's also a little more sophisticated because you can control it with an RSS feed. So the example he used was you could attach your desktop to the astronomy picture of the day.
Right.
And so every morning you get up and you have a different, gorgeous looking interstellar, photograph taken from the Hubble or whatever telescope is actually working these days. That's cool. And he also talked about some panning options for this. One of the features of Windows 7 that I think people don't quite understand is that it has the multi-touch stuff, but it's also basically a software version of the Surface table, right? That sort of, the big fricking table thing that was immortalized late last year.
Right.
Windows 7's multi-touch features are essentially identical to what is in Surface. So from an API standpoint, I think it's going to be the same system. So if you want to develop a software application that runs in multi-touch in Windows 7 or one that runs on the Surface, it may very well be the same.
That's cool.
Environment. Yeah,
that's cool.
And he discovered that a lot of the options for Surface are in Windows 7, like panning. For example, the ability to flip by things in a UI.
So these aren't necessarily features in Windows 7, but because you know what the API is, there are calls that are in Windows 7, so you know that they're planning on.
Yeah, there are references to them. And actually, in some of these cases, for example, the desktop slideshow, that code actually is in there.
Oh, it's just not activated.
It's not activated, so he has activated it.
Wow!
The Surface stuff.
He is tricky, that Raphael.
Yeah, he is. Well, this is why. That's why he's working on the book.
He's good. I like it. He's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
When he says secrets, he means them.
Yeah, these are secrets.
Now, he activated the taskbar by figuring out certain information that Microsoft wanted to know and providing a file. Is he doing the same kind of thing with activating these other features? How is he doing it?
So I don't know how he does it exactly. I'm not a programmer.
Voodoo.
It's magic.
Magic. Yeah.
I don't believe he's released something for the desktop slideshow, but he has given it out to a few people and they've tested it, and there are pictures of it. And all
good
that.
for him.
Yeah, good stuff.
And Minwin.
Minwin.
Mini-me, you complete me.
The other thing that this is sort of transitioning to the next topic. One of the things that's amusing to me is the way people misreport things or report things. And one of the things that just happened today that I don't have here in the topic list because it just happened today is Microsoft allegedly said today that they were going to ship Windows 7 in 2009.
Wow. So they admitted it. I mean, this is what you and others had postulated.
Yeah. Yeah, as early as mid next year. Now, but the thing is, see, if you actually read what unfortunately, the quote is this.
Yeah.
There was a guy from Microsoft who gave a presentation about something called Velocity, which is a program at Microsoft that I've actually talked to the company about. It's a program designed to improve the Vista experience, in this case, on PC. So, for example, they work with PC makers and they look at the systems, and they usually what they find is, Sony or Dell or HP, whoever it is, because all these guys are going through this program. They're shipping these systems with these incredible out-of-date drivers.
Right.
And just by fixing that, they can reduce boot time by a factor of 20. They can, it's been astonishing. So the program's called Velocity, and he was apparently gave a talk about this, and he talked to CNET, and they asked him a question about the ship time and the holiday season and everything. And the quote they got from him was, definitely the holiday focus is going to be on Windows 7.
Whoa.
So suggesting that Windows 7 will be shipping.
About when you thought, August maybe. September.
Yeah. But did he say 2009? I mean,
I see. He didn't say a year.
I don't know that he actually, I don't know. Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
And I need to. So I still do believe they will ship it next year.
And if we're to believe what you say about the componentization of Windows, they could ship any time.
Well, that's not what I say about it, Leo.
That's what others and many say.
No, they confirm this at the reviewers' workshop.
They could ship any time. So it's really up there. It's their discretion.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they do it unless they felt like they could eke a little more juice out of Vista? But statements like this are not helping.
Yeah, they've said a bunch of things that suggest way earlier than previously stated. They've talked about the roadmap and the schedule in vague terms, right? They don't talk dates, but what they say, well, except in one case, what they basically said is what we have now is a pre-beta. And then they said, early next year, we're going to ship a beta. And then after that, we're going to ship a release candidate. And then sometime by early 2010, we'll release this thing as a product. And what's interesting about that little schedule is they very specifically said a beta, a release candidate, and not a beta 1, a beta 2, a beta 3 like they've always done in the past.
Right.
And not a release candidate 0, a release candidate 1, a release candidate 2 like they've always done in the past. And I really think that they're going to ship a beta, and they're going to ship a release candidate, and then when is that? Now we're talking June of next year at the latest.
Huh.
It's inconceivable if they ship a beta and it's January, this thing will be out by mid-year next year.
Inconceivable, you say?
Inconceivable that won't happen.
I do not think that means what you think it means. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I think it means what I think it means. I think I didn't say what I meant to say.
Inconceivable. It's inconceivable that they would ship. Inconceivable. So, no, in fact, it sounds like that's exactly the timeline.
I love The Princess Bride, by the way.
Yes, I know you do. I wouldn't have made a reference if I didn't think you would get it. So, no, it seems like they're setting themselves up for. Why would they be shipping that in say, June
They desperately want people not to know that they're doing this.
Because they don't want to stop Vista sales.
They want to, yeah, and they also want to say, surprise, look, we really can ship stuff.
We can ship.
We're not the silly guys you thought we were.
They don't have anything to prove. They're Microsoft.
Well, this is a big deal for them. They don't really excite people like they used to. And, this big platform they just announced, Windows Azure, I think it's just confused people and scared people. I don't really see people energized or excited and raring to go to get their stuff.
Not like you and me, baby.
I think they need this. I think as frou-frou as the Surface stuff is, they realize that in the consumer market especially, which is becoming more and more important, for PC sales, they need to be exciting.
We've got actually a demo of a Surface-like product we're going to do next week.
Yeah, you have that guy with the...
you knew about this.
The touch thing. Well, he emailed both of us.
Yeah, he's going to come in and show us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of... I like touch. I think touch is very interesting. So he's going to do a demo on the... Is it Windows 7? Does it require 7? So
no, the HP MediaSmart has touch stuff built into it now, that HP did.
Oh, so it uses that.
I'm not sure what he's going to show you, but
you'd think I'd know more, but I don't.
You did, after all, invite him to the office.
I did invite him in. Some stranger's going to come here and touch me. That's all I know.
There you go, and it will be broadcast to the world.
Yes.
so at least you'll have the evidence. But at the reviewers workshop, and then again at the show last week, all of the touch stuff was on those HP MediaSmart computers.
Oh, okay.
So I think that it should be compatible. I would imagine if you installed Windows 7 on such a machine, you would probably get all of the touch stuff.
Don't you find it interesting that we've all been looking for the next interface, the next user interface, and it's this? Mm-hmm. That kind of didn't. I don't know. Maybe you saw it coming. I didn't see that coming.
Touch, you mean?
Yeah, I thought maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't seem like the logical extension of tablet. I thought, speech recognition, something, touch, multi-touch. I didn't.
Right, and you want to know why? Touch is like touch to tablet PC is like finger painting to oil painting. Right.
Exactly.
It seems like it's
very apt. Yes.
It seems less sophisticated.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like the type of thing that people would be interested in. But the iPhone is interesting because the touch stuff is very effective. I had a discussion actually with Ed and his co-author on Inside Windows when we were at PDC. I was talking about just doing basic tasks on smartphones, and when the reason that the iPhone works where Windows Mobile doesn't. One of the nice things about the touch interface when you do it right is that you can open an email, push it into a folder, move to the next email very easily with this touch interface. But when you don't have a touch interface, and in fact, on the Microsoft phones, where you actually have a variety of interfaces you have to deal with. Some of those things have scroll wheels on the side.
Right.
Some of them have the round button things on the front. Some of them
never know
actually
what
do
you're gonna
support. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get. So you have to do things a little differently. And unfortunately, as we've discussed, Microsoft architected Windows Mobile in such a way that it's like Windows. So the process of, looking at an email and then moving it to a different folder involves an unnecessary series of steps, because you're essentially opening a menu, choosing a submenu, choosing M for move, and then you move on to the next one. And that whole thing is just it's a complicated series of steps. Whereas touching the screen, is in this case, and in a few others, is actually much more efficient. So even though it seems less sophisticated, it is in fact more efficient.
It's not a series of tubes; it's a series of steps.
That's right. Yeah.
No, it's very intuitive. Maybe because we saw Tom Cruise do it in Minority Report or something, but it's just, and now it's everywhere. You see. Yeah. So you see ads with people going like this. I know you see it on CNN when they're during the election coverage. They were stretching maps, and
that was horrible.
It was pretty funny. And then was that a Surface they were using, or
not on CNN, but they were on MSNBC.
MSNBC had a Surface, but the Surface, the big touch board was better, except the lighting.
By the way, now that you're on this topic, you've reminded me. Election night was a beautiful example of the abuse of technology.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Because a lot of that stuff that they did
didn't add anything.
Okay.
It didn't add any
Some
information.
Some of it was okay.
Yeah.
But, the virtual room, the beaming the guy in like Star Trek
that
on CNN
was
thing.
Terrible.
That was stupid. And, and MSNBC, CNN had these sort of wall displays where they would show it in kind of look like a bell, where they would have different types of voters.
Oh, yeah. That was completely inscrutable.
And every single time they went to it, Soledad O'Brien asked the guy the same question. Now, what am I looking at again?
Yeah.
At first I thought she's just doing this because she knows people are just dialing in.
She had no idea.
I don't think she understood it.
I didn't understand it. It was too small. No. You couldn't read it. It was inscrutable.
It's terrible.
What they did was an example of technology for technology's sake.
It is it's like the ransom note things that used to come out when desktop publishing first appeared.
Right, exactly.
I have 1 million fonts and they must all be in this document.
Yeah. It just
unnecessary.
It wasn't making me angry, but it just seemed like, especially the hologram, which they made a lot of. I've been in TV for a while. If you want. I don't need 44 cameras to make Paul look like he's sitting next to me.
But I think they specifically made it look worse.
They did,
just so you knew it was a hologram. Let's put a blue line around the guy and give him the Star Trek
and a little red
effect.
dot. But the whole thing is goofy. I mean, it's we with Matt Technology. I was doing it with Soledad O'Brien in 1996. I was standing right across from her with Matt Technology. It didn't need 44 cameras. It didn't need special technology, and it looked perfectly real. And so why it was just a gimmick. Anyway, there's no reason I'm railing about it. It's not the end of the world, but it just.
Well, it was an abuse of technology. It was just unnecessary.
And a lot of people like us got excited just because they're using technology.
Well, I did at first, and then you see what they're doing with it. You're like, oh, come on. And then my wife actually goofed on me. I think it was I don't remember which network. One of the networks, they had the 4 goofy guys with the laptops, and
that was CNN also, and I hated that. So,
well, they covered up the
they're looking over
the laptop brand with a CNN thing or something. So Stephanie says to me, she goes, "You know what kind of laptops those are, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, those are like Dell.
Yeah, they're Dells.
D810s or D610s.
Yeah.
You can tell. So you can tell from the buck.
You can practically tell you can practically see the Dell.
But then she's looking at me like that. I didn't want you to know the answer to that.
You're a geek. You're a geek.
Loser.
You're a loser. Yeah, I know exactly what that is. That's the MA2050. And, it's a very fine laptop, but you'll find the battery life's pretty bad. I hope they've got those plugged in.
They're actually kind of dated.
They're old. It's like they found them in the basement, in the inventory room.
I think they used them at the last election, actually.
And then the funniest thing is, so they've got all these guys at the table. They're all kind of like looking like Kilroy was here over the top of their Dell.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because they were using those big ones, right? Yeah,
and then Ed Rollins, who's clearly older and doesn't really care, is a coffee mug.
Yeah.
They're all, and he's got a coffee mug in front of him. That worked, for me. I thought that was fine. You don't see a big laptops in front of us. It just doesn't make it's.
So you do have too many buttons, though.
I have computers galore in front of me, but I don't put them in between me and the camera.
Right.
It's a little thing.
They'll get there.
If you want, I could put one in front of me. I mean, there's little,
no.
There's little Paul. There's
Yeah,
it's all there. It's just silly.
Pocket Paul in the background.
Pocket Paul. I always have a Pocket Paul behind me. See that? There's a little Pocket Paul on my desktop. He's sneaking up on me. Hey!
It's like the change gremlin. I'm going to do it wrong, but let's see. Here we go.
Oh! Something's tickling me.
Scratching your back. You know.
That's Pocket Paul. I always have one. Everyone ought to have him. New from Papil. Pocket Paul. Hey, he's a good-looking fella. Just sits there on your desk. You know, there was a very famous, in fact, I'm trying to find, I have a copy of it. There was a very famous Apple video that they made in the Scully era, which would have been about, I don't know, in the 80s. Very, very much like a little Pocket Paul. They had a little, it was the Dynabook.
The Knowledge Navigator.
Knowledge Navigator with the guy in the bow tie.
Yeah.
He's a little guy. He says, your mother called. Oh, what did she want? Well, she wanted to remind you. It was very funny.
Yeah, she seemed very angry.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it.
Returning her calls. I have that somewhere.
It would be great for a keynote. It's probably on YouTube. I have it on Laserdisc from the TED conference somewhere, so I just have to find it. Pocket Paul. He's my Pocket Paul. What else is new? Let's see. You said you were playing. Oh gosh, how could I forget? Google drops out of the Yahoo ad deal. Mm-hmm. And Jerry Yang at the Web 2.0 Summit says, yeah, we're available.
Well,
Microsoft, you want to buy us? We're available.
Actually, so I think he's an idiot. For what
I think he's an idiot now.
But he actually was very, very much misquoted.
Okay.
This whole thing is crazy to me. You know, they Google and Yahoo put up this really sort of arrogant front, about a month ago, where they said, listen, we're going through with this deal. The government can sue us. We think we're right.
Right.
And then the government actually contacted them and said, by the way, we are going to sue you. And then they said, well, we'll put it off.
Never mind.
They kind of backed up. So I guess over the last weekend, they were working to implement some really serious changes that would have really kind of undermined Yahoo's goals as far, financial goals for this deal. And the DOJ just said no. So Google pulled out. And then, of course, Google being Google, they have to be arrogant about it, right? So they said, well, we would have won in court, but we don't
want to do it.
We don't want to fight
Too much trouble.
Which is exactly what someone who thinks they're going to do, win in court does, is they don't fight it in court.
Yeah, right.
But I guess they left Yahoo standing there, kind of.
Poor, yeah, you're right. I am feeling sorry for Jerry Yang now.
Well, in other words, they both didn't pull out together. Google pulled out of it and left Yahoo spinning in the wind. But anyway, what Yang said,
I have to say, what it looks like is Google stepped in just long enough to kill the Microsoft deal, and then as soon as the Microsoft deal was dead, said, "Yeah, we didn't really want to do it anyway."
Sure,
phone's ringing.
Yeah, of course. I need to figure out my phone system because I'm telling you, I turn the ringers off in my office and it just ring again.
I love it. It doesn't bother me. My phone rings all the time. I turn them on. I go around turning them on, hoping somebody will call me.
I don't ever want to be called, and my phone rings constantly.
Well, I don't answer the home phone, and Jennifer gets mad, and I say, why should I answer it? It's always for you.
Right.
What's the point in answering it? It's only for me to pick it up, say it's for you.
Sure.
I guess she wants people to know that I'm here. I don't know.
Where else would you be?
Here. The other place I live half my life. Okay. So what do you so Jerry was quoted out of context.
He was misquoted. In other words, I think it was yesterday or the day before, there were a bunch of news stories that said Yahoo's best option is to have Microsoft buy us, Yang says. Which is kind of a blockbuster announcement.
A little late to say that, Jer.
The thing is, that's actually not what he said.
Oh.
What he said was, it's actually, what he said was in many ways more insane than what we thought he said.
Oh, no.
He said, to this day, I would say the best thing for Microsoft is to buy Yahoo.
The best thing for Microsoft?
It's the best thing for Microsoft.
Oh.
In other words, Microsoft is the one who's in trouble, And their only way out of this trouble is to buy Yahoo.
Oh man,
that financial albatross that would bring you down for the next 3 years.
How did he survive?
So I thought that was interesting.
How did the board let him stay on? I don't understand.
I don't know. You got to think this is the beginning of the end, though.
It has
this
to
is
be.
This is crazy.
It's over now.
Now, Steve Ballmer, Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer, was in Australia this week for a conference of some kind, and they asked him about this, and he said that, again, Microsoft's moved on. We're not interested in looking at that again, and
sorry.
He said, look, they turned us down. I mean, the premium that Microsoft offered on them was so enormous at $33 a share. I can't
now
even
it really
imagine.
looks like, what is Yahoo now? I mean, now it really looks like a lot.
As I wrote this today in the newsletter, I'm thinking somewhere in the $3 range would be pretty much
oh, man. Well, let me check.
what they're worth.
God.
I mean, no, they probably somewhere in the $10 range. But I mean, if I was Microsoft, I'd be like, yeah, I'd buy you. Here's $3.
Yeah, $12.20.
Sure.
So they were being offered a premium of 250%.
They were $20 when he offered $33 a share in January. Very end of January. That's insane.
Man.
Now, of course, this is Ballmer, though, right? And I was joking about this in the newsletter today. This is the guy. You stick Ballmer in front of a Microsoft and hilarity ensues. And I love that about him because the longer he's there, the more he'll say. He blew all kinds of Windows 7 secrets before, PDC, which must
Are you
have...
saying he's kind of like the Joe Biden of Microsoft?
Well, that's interesting. So, yes, I think I am saying.
I think it's true.
I do too.
He just,
He can't stop.
He can't stop.
Loves the microphone.
Loves
he loves
to talk. Yeah.
So what he did say was, okay, we're not going to buy them, but maybe there's still some possibilities around a web search partnership, which was what, after failing twice to buy Yahoo, Microsoft offered that, and then now they're saying, well, maybe we'll look at that one again. Oh God, just walk away, will you? Don't look back. It's like just don't look back.
I'm going to play taps in a moment.
For Yahoo?
No, I'm not going to tell you for whom. I just want to warn you. I don't like there to be any suspense. In case you've got heart trouble, just know that in a moment you're going to hear...
I'm actually going to hear it.
You're going to hear that in a moment. But first, it's time to welcome Go to My PC to the show. Go to My PC. You know who Go to My PC is. We love them. They allow you to access your PC from anywhere you go. From the great folks at Citrix, Go to My Citrix. Go to My PC is fast. The latest version, faster than ever. So it really is practically like you're there. Here's what happens. You put Go to My PC on your PC at work. Then anywhere you go from any computer, you can log in to gotomypc.com and instantly establish a completely secure connection from that computer, whether it's at an insecure place like an internet cafe or your home or a hotel, anywhere. You write to your office PC and suddenly you're there. You're seeing your office desktop. You could do anything you could do at work. Send and receive email, access any network resource, get your OLAP cubes. If you're the kind of person, I do this every time. I walk out the door of my office and at least half the time I go, oh, and I have to go back and get something. Problem is, if you've already taken a long flight to a meeting across the country, you can't go, oh, and go back and get something. And you're not going to, I can't call Dane and say, hey, could you find this file, email it to me? No, I use Go to My PC. Go to My PC is great. If you want to work from home and get access to your office PC, if you travel for your job, you need access to your files. Wherever you are, you can get work done. PC World's world-class award winner for best remote access software. Now you could try it for for nothing, for free. Absolutely nothing. Go to gotomypc.com/Windows. Sign up today. You get a 30-day free trial to see what it's like, to see how you could use it, to find new solutions. Go to My PC is amazing. GOTOMYPC.com. Go to gotomypc.com/Windows. Sign up today for a free 30-day trial. I know you're going to love it. I should warn you, you'll probably get hooked. Go to mypc.com/Windows. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. So do you know who I'm going to play taps for?
So I didn't want to interrupt there, but I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say access your, what was the phrase? It was,
what did I say?
I already forgot it. Something about SQL.
OLAP cubes.
OLAP cubes. Yes, thank you.
I love OLAP cubes. Don't you?
I just wanted. Who doesn't? Okay.
I was just trying to find some
esoteric
enterprise phrase.
Okay. No, that's good. Okay.
I don't even know what it means, but I did a thing for SAS, SAS Institute, the folks that do the business intelligence stuff. And I do remember that one of the modules for the SAS software was an OLAP cube analyzer.
Sure.
And that's where I got that phrase from. I just love the name OLAP cubes.
Sometimes we've just maybe been here for too long.
I just, I don't know about you. I'm always prepared to get arrested. And
okay.
I am. I'm just ready.
Okay.
I'm ready for them to come with the cuffs.
Wait,
and
you have like a kit of some sort?
No, I just, in my mind, it's probably some form of Asperger's syndrome or something. But in my mind, I'm always thinking of pseudonyms to give the police when they arrest me.
Okay.
And that's one of them. Your name, Cubes. OLAP Cubes.
OLAP
What is that, Scandinavian? Yes, Scandinavian.
Yes, it is.
You can call me Ol.
You should say, no, it's sequel.
Sequel, yeah, it's sequel.
It's one of those small countries.
My father was OLAP Squares, and I'm his sequel. OLAP Cubes. All right, let me play the dirge, because it is the beginning of the end, ladies and gentlemen. We come together to mourn the loss of one of our brothers in arms. Windows 3.1.
Oh, God.
Windows, this application has unexpectedly quit. Windows.
Which I actually found insulting because it was never unexpected.
Unexpected? It came out in 1990. It's 28 years old. No, 18 years old. It's time to put it down. Right. In dog years, that's 1,000. And an operating system.
Windows 3, that was the version I first looked at. And as an Amiga user at the time, I have to say, I laughed and laughed and laughed.
You're laughing out of the other side of your cheek now. I remember the same exact thing. I was a Mac user. And actually, I didn't laugh. 3.0 was terrible. When I saw 3.0, I laughed. When I saw 3.1, I said, ooh.
Yeah. The first one,
that's pretty good.
I think the first one I used myself might have been 3.1.1.
Right, Windows for Workgroups, yeah. I was doing the show with Dvorak at the time. I was doing Dvorak on computers, and I was a Mac guy. I loved the Mac. I'd had PCs when they first came out in 81, but when the Mac came out in 84, that was the first GUI, and I said, I like GUIs. I want to use GUIs. And then Windows 1 came out, and I laughed. Windows 3 came out, and I laughed. Windows 3.1 came out, and I said, Apple's in trouble. I said, in fact, I have a recording somewhere of me saying, this is pretty good. This is, and it's funny because some years later, about I think 6 years later, I remember talking to Steve Jobs. He wasn't at Apple yet. He wasn't back at Apple. He was at Pixar. And that was his exact reaction. He said, we had a lead when we came out in 84 that was totally erased by the time Windows 3.1 came out. Sure. Apple let Microsoft catch up. Well, anyway, Microsoft now says it's going to stop issuing licenses.
Well, let's be clear here, though, right? They were issuing licenses only to the embedded market.
I was going to say, how do you get a license?
Yeah, you would make a cash register. I believe it was used in in-flight systems on certain aging airlines in Europe.
God.
It's not something that was very mainstream. Obviously, that stuff, I think those people are using Linux. And in some cases...
Well, there are many other embedded operating systems now that are probably better for the job. Sure. It was the first version of Windows to go above 640K. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Is it right, 640? Yeah, 640K.
Well, Windows for Workgroups 3.1.1 was the version of Windows that had all this stuff that everyone associates with Windows 95. Aside from the UI, it was Windows 95. It had the true 32-bit mode. It had the 32-bit access to the file system. It had the workgroup style networking, LAN man stuff. This was it was sort of a stealth release. And actually, thinking back to our conversation a few weeks ago about Windows 7 being version 6.1 and how weird it is that Microsoft, would make this into a major release. Windows for Workgroups 3.1 was the big release of that family. 3.1.1 was actually a big release, although no one remembers it. So there's some precedent for that. And, now it's gone, I guess. I noticed I was on MSDN the other day, and you can actually download Windows 3.1.1.
Really?
And maybe I'll do that this weekend.
You should. It would be kind of a fun project. We did
get it up and running.
Yeah, we did this at Tech TV. Jim Latterback had a copy of Windows 1, and we got it up and running. And I think for kids today, you young people, you don't remember what it was like in the old days. It'd be good. Well, good for you.
For Windows 1, that was never like that for anybody anyway, so that doesn't really matter.
It'd be good for you to see what it was like. Appreciate what you got now.
Hey, those windows would slide up next to each other but never overlap.
I like that feature, that tiling feature, yeah.
Tiling, yeah.
But they didn't have a browser in Windows 3.1.1, and I don't think it would be pretty tricky to get a browser working on it these days. I guess you could.
Yeah, and Netscape... well, no, wait. They must have. I think they did at some point release an IE
for Windows 3
version. Yeah, very briefly. I think they did. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, it would have been IE 3.
It might have been IE 1 or 2.
Maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, bye Windows 3. You were good when in your time, in your prime. Actually, it's funny because I was thinking, 1990. That's 28 years. It's only 18 years. It's not that long ago.
Depends on what you're measuring, I guess.
My daughter was born in 92. I mean, she's still a kid. I mean, it's not.
Yeah. I got married in 1990.
There you go. It's been It's been a long time for you. But
too long.
Yeah, we got married in 91. So no, I mean it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a short time in computer years is a long time, but it's a short time on human scale, really.
Once it goes by, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I just thought I'd mention that. You were playing Gears of War 2 before I got you on the horn, right? How's that? Is that good? You like it?
It is good.
Is it good?
Yeah, I can't say that it's awesome. It's more of the same, right? And which is good because Gears of War was fantastic. They prettied it up a little bit. It was already really nice looking. The story's great. I've only done a little bit of multiplayer. I was really critical of multiplayer last time around. It looks like it's, unfortunately more of the same, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
I have to say, I think that was the first game I got for my new Xbox 360, and I was impressed.
Well, yeah, I throw that thing up on a 1080p TV, and it looks good. It looks good. It looks good.
Yeah. And so
that's not the only game that's out now. This is an embarrassment of riches all of a sudden.
What else are we getting?
Well, there's a new version of Call of Duty coming out. And
Is Call of Duty 5 due out?
It's coming out next week.
Holy cow.
And here's the thing. They're going back to World War II, which I think a lot of people think is a mistake. And I actually thought it was a mistake.
I don't think so. I think that was the good war.
That's true. But we are playing the multiplayer beta right now. And I have to say, if you like Call of Duty 4 multiplayer, which is, of course, what everyone does with this game, you have to get this game because the Call of Duty 5 multiplayer is just like Call of Duty 4, except they fixed all the problems.
Oh.
So it's nicer looking, it's more colorful and so forth. The weapons are World War II era, but they've made some concessions because some of the best stuff for multiplayer, it was sort of the modern stuff like red eye sights and so forth. So they've added that in. But they've really tweaked it and made it into a better game. And I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. So if you were worried that this game was going to stink because it's World War II, fear not. The multiplayer looks awesome. So that's good stuff.
Call of Duty World at War.
Yeah. Looks great.
Yeah. Wow.
But there's other stuff. So there's Fable 2, which is kind of a role-playing type game like Oblivion.
That's my kind of game. 3. Oblivion is such a stinky game. I mean,
I didn't like it either, but a lot of people loved it. So
I like that style. I want to play a good one though.
Then look at Fable 2 and also look at Fallout 3, which is a sci-fi.
I love Fallout. I remember Fallout. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the new Fallout 3. Looks good for people like me. I like the sort of brainless shooter type games. So Dead Space is kind of on the edge. Dead Space is actually very much like Doom 3. So if you're familiar with the whole space station taken over by something evil, that's kill him. Very much like that. Yeah. A game called Left 4 Dead, Far Cry 2. I mean, it's going to be a busy time.
Well, I guess they're getting ready for the holidays, right? We gotta.
Yeah. You can tell because it's all about killing people. So
yeah, nothing more festive than taking a big
nothing
gun
says
and,
Christmas like an Uzi and
blowing some people away. Did you get? Did you see that there's a Gears of War Zune?
I did, and I'm giving one away.
You have one? Can I see it? Can you hold it up?
Yes, I can.
I want to see it.
I got a phone call the other day. I didn't take it out of the box, so because I want to give it away.
But is it painted? Is it like have the guy on it?
It is etched. It has the. Let me hold it up so you can actually see it. Oh. It has the Gears of War etching on it, and then the hard drive on the device has all kinds of Gears of War content as well. So there's Gears of War 2 movies and whatnot. But it's a 120 gig version of the Zune, so it's the big one. And then this one's expensive. I want to say it's $280.
Is that how much? Is like $30 more than the regular one?
Yeah.
That's not so bad.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of money.
They're sitting there at a table somewhere in Redmond saying, "Well, how much more can we charge for this?" Yeah. Well, they did one of these for Halo 3 last year. Remember? Right. Special edition. So I was thinking, I do a lot of giveaways. We've talked about this. There's been the book giveaways. We'll have more of those soon. But I wanted to do something fun with this, and it occurred to me I'm going to be playing this game all weekend. So what I did was there's something up on my site about this. If you go online and play against me, drop me a note through the Xbox, and all the people that do that, I'll enter them into the contest. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, pick a window random. Now, unfortunately, I have to restrict this to the U.S. and Canada because that's unfortunately the only place where you're allowed to ship these things. Oh, they have restrictions on it. And what is your gamer tag? What do we call you? It's my name, so it's just Paul Thurrott. Okay. Oh, fun. And what game will you be playing this weekend? Gears of War? Gears of War 2. Gears of War 2. Oh, now I have to run out and get Gears of War 2 so I can play Paul so that I can win a Gears of War 2 Zune. I showed up at Best Buy this morning to buy an extra copy of the game. And I showed up at 10, which is a weird thing to do. If you've never done this before, I felt like a kind of a stalker. Yeah, because everybody's at work, and you're at Best Buy. Well, so you can say what you want about the economy, but there were 20 people standing outside of Best Buy. Waiting to get in? Which I thought was really strange. I gotta have a Zoom. I gotta buy electronics. So I felt weird about that, but that's interesting. So it just came out today. But anyway, there's a bunch of them out there, and there's crazy versions of it if you want the kind that looks like the gun. And do you think that the people out there were buying Call of Duty? No, that's not out till next week. Some of them, Gears of War is the one that came out today. Was that what they were? Some of them were. Yeah, this guy behind me bought like 3 copies of it. 3 copies? Yeah. Why would you? Oh, maybe he's going to sell them online? I don't know what he's doing. Why would you buy 3 copies? You can never have too many copies of Gears of War 2. Not. Why did you buy 2 copies yourself? Who said I bought 2 copies? I thought you said you went to get another copy. You're right, I did. I have 2 Xboxes. I'm cheap. No, I just bring the game from one Xbox to the other. Oh, no. Well, so one of the things you can do in this version is cooperatively play the single-player campaign. And I believe you can do it online with up to 4 or 5, I think it's 4 people. That would be fun. So my son and I will play it cooperatively locally on the 2 different Xboxes, which is why I need 2. Okay. But we also play once a month up the street with these guys. Yeah, you got your team. We got to have, the boys. I got to help. I subsidize some people, so. Oh, aren't you nice? Well, I got to have an extra copy of the game. So the rules are, if you want to win a Gears of War 2 Zune worth $280. As is always the case, we talk about this in the podcast. By the time you hear this, it will have already happened. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend. Well, the podcast comes out today. Yeah. I mean, we're Friday. So if you listen early. If you haven't, if that's November 7th, 8th, and 9th. And you must be in the U.S. and Canada to win. Sorry. No, that's not your fault. You are good in every other respect. Well, thank you, sir. This is a limitation Microsoft places on the hardware. Yeah. Well, you can't even access the stuff, I guess, the service and so forth if you don't live in those countries. That makes sense. All right, let's take a break, and then we're going to get Paul's tip of the week and his software of the week. But first, it is time to remember on this special day, my friends at Audible.com. Audible.com/Windows, the place to go. And yes, this I'm sad to say, very sad to say that Michael Crichton passed away this week. Only a young guy, only 66. He had cancer, and Well, he will be missed, the author of so many great science fiction books. First I read was, I'm sure it was Andromeda Strain. And if you haven't read Andromeda Strain, what are you waiting for? Just get out awesome. There. Yeah, I mean, that is a great book.
I remember reading Jurassic Park, and I handed the book to a friend, and I said, hey, you have to read this, and they have to turn this into a movie.
Yeah, you were right.
I don't know how they'll do it, but I was so impressed by that book.
We were talking about this on yesterday with Steve Gibson. He said it seems like every Michael Crichton book is a movie, and I think it's the way that Michael writes. His stuff is very visual. You know, you just you see it as you read it.
There's a theme about it's almost like a mistrust in technology theme.
Yes, you're right.
That goes through many of his stories, and not just the ones that have been turned into books. I mean, there's some he's written screenplays for movies that are like that as well, and of course TV shows as well. Interesting guy and a really smart guy.
It's a real loss, but the good news is if you join Audible right now, there are many, many of his books on audible.com. I'm not sure I'd recommend the Andromeda Strain because it looks like the only version they have is abridged, and I think that's one you really want to read the full version. This is, Audible's a little bit at the mercy of what the publisher does. All of the new stuff is unabridged and abridged. You get your choice, but some of the earlier stuff, like the Andromeda Strain, only abridged, which is really too bad. And that's just because the publisher, that's how they put it out. But there are many.
Maybe it was a CD limitation or even a cassette.
I don't think when this came out, it wasn't CDs, it was cassettes, and I think you hit the nail on the head. They didn't want to give you 50 cassettes.
I bet that's what it was.
So yeah, absolutely. We were going to talk about Timeline. Fortunately, there's an unabridged version of Timeline. I thought this was kind of an interesting story.
That's one of my favorite ones, actually.
I like time travel stories. They go back to France in the Middle Ages. It's really kind of interesting. Timeline. But any of the Michael Crichton books would be a great choice. With your Audible subscription, you get a free book. Audible.com/Windows is a place to go. Technically, you get a credit toward a book, but I think all of these are one credit. As far as I know, all of them are one credit. I would say Timeline. Now, make sure there's abridged and unabridged. If you don't have a lot of time, get the abridged. But if you can, get the unabridged. I don't like to read abridged fiction. However, I'll tell you, when you're listening to Audible books, especially stuff that's visual, that's compelling, like Michael Crichton, you want to say it's a page turn. I don't know. You can't stop listening. It is just This is one of those books where you don't get out of the car. You say, "No, one more chapter, one more chapter." I love that kind of reading. It takes you away. And if you've got a terrible commute, this is a solution for you. Audible.com/Windows. You'll actually embrace your commute. You'll look forward to getting in the car. Audible.com/Windows. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. All right, time for your tipperino, Mr. Paul.
Okay.
Tip of the week.
I wanted to talk about virtualization, although since sending this to you, it occurs to me one of the problems with Windows Vista, because there are so many different versions of the operating system, is that Microsoft has artificially licensed a lot of its software to only run on certain versions of Windows Vista. And they make free virtualization software, for example, Virtual PC and Virtual Server, actually, which can be made to run on the desktop version of Windows. They're only licensed for Windows Vista Business, Enterprise, and Ultimate. So if you have Home Premium, which I think a lot of people would, or Home Basic, you're actually technically not able to run, shouldn't say technically, legally not able to run Virtual PC, which is too bad. Now, if you want to get around that limitation, one of the many things you could do is you could purchase something like VMware Workstation. Those guys just ship version 6.5. And I'd have to say, from a performance standpoint, VMware actually runs much faster than anything Microsoft makes at this time.
I'm a big VMware fan. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I've used VMware on Fusion on the Mac, and I've used VMware on Linux for a long time.
Fusion is my favorite one on the Mac as well, which is interesting because I really liked Parallels Desktop, but actually VMware Fusion is fantastic. There are also some advantages to VMware because VMware supports things like USB devices, which the Microsoft stuff still doesn't, which is crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable. But
does it support CDs?
Yes.
Okay. Because, you realize, I mean, I understand why there's some difficulty because you got this war between the embedded operating system and the actual operating system over. Well, whose USB is this? It can't be both of ours. So I guess that's a tricky thing to do. But every other commercial program has solved that. So
sure,
it's free. What do you want?
It is free.
VMware has a free version too, right?
Well, they have a server product that's free. They have a player product that's free.
Oh, okay.
But that,
you're limited to just appliances that you can download.
Exactly. So for something like you want to install a version of Windows to test. I mean,
right.
One of the great things about virtualization for an end user is that it gives you a place to either run legacy applications that just don't work, and maybe the new version of Windows you have, or just to test things. If you're a programmer, especially, or a web developer, this is a great way to get Windows XP with IE6 running in its own window while you're working in Windows Vista, let's say, and you can test your website or your web application in both environments simultaneously. It's good for that kind of stuff. So, and also, people like me, I mean, I throw everything on my system almost idiotically. As a result, I have to, reinstall my system fairly regularly. A virtualization is an interesting way to test software without affecting your actual PC, which is kind of nice because you can dual boot, of course, but you're still affecting the underlying PC when you do something like that. And of course, when you're dual booting, you're only using one system. You can't access the other system. So still very interesting. So something to at least realize is out there and so forth, and know that it's there. So and make sure you're getting the latest version too. I know that in Virtual PC, for example, the latest version of the software is 2007, but you want the SP1 version, and you can actually search for Virtual PC 2007 on Microsoft's site and get the old version, not the new version, which is crazy to me. But make sure you're getting the Service Pack 1 version as well.
Very cool. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a very important moment. It is time for the first Windows 7 tip.
You know what?
What?
I just realized the version of the document I have doesn't have the person's name in it. Now I have to get.
So somebody sent you this?
Somebody sent me this, and it works, and it's great.
The first, ladies and gentlemen, Windows 7
Wait, I have to.
tip. You got 30 seconds while this fanfare plays.
I
Oh, you got it? Oh, never mind.
Jeez.
It's a little like Monty Python in here. And now for something
it's the majesty of Windows 7 tips. I'm dual booting my computer between Windows 7 and Windows Vista, and almost everything works in Windows 7. But one thing that doesn't work for me, I don't want to get anyone. Please don't email me if it works for you. It doesn't really help.
Works for me.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Yeah.
Is Skype. Skype doesn't work. In fact, I can actually watch it fail.
Well, Raphael, or wasn't it Raphael, or was it Ed Butts? Or maybe it was you. It was you, I guess. You tried to get it working. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so the previous two times I've tried to get on with you, I can actually watch it. The window comes up.
Right.
And then it disappears. It just goes away. It doesn't make a sound. It literally disappears. Yeah. So I've tried the beta version of the new one, and I've tried the release version of version 3, whatever. Anyway.
Atomic in our chat room says it's the audio drivers.
Okay.
It works for him.
I know, but it works for him. So good for him.
No, he doesn't say that. I'm just trying.
The other thing, and since we're on the topic, the other thing I don't want to get any more emails about is people's theories on why Windows 7 is the 7th version of Windows.
Yeah, no more of that.
I listen.
We don't need to know.
Your efforts.
Thanks for the try.
I know it's obvious to you. I'm telling you, it's not. And I don't.
There's no. Let's
I'm
not
not
say.
going to debate it.
I was going to start saying something. No.
No. Listen, you can talk. You can write it out. You can even make it into a little spreadsheet, which one guy did for me, which I enjoyed.
No, really.
It's not the 7th version. It's just not. So thank you, but no.
Oh, Lord. It's like reading tea leaves. It's just.
Yeah. So because I'm in Windows Vista now, I can't actually do this as I sit here. But this one comes from Daniel Smith, who sent me this email. And sure enough, this works great. And it does work great. There's a feature in Windows 7 called Arrow Snaps. And the way it works with the mouse is you have a window floating on the desktop, and you can drag it to the sides of the screen, and it will do different things. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you drag it to the top, it will maximize the window. and then you can drag it off of the top, and it will go back to the way it was before.
That is a good feature. That's very intuitive, I would bet.
It's neat, and once you see it in action, you think, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
You can drag it to the right or left of the screen, and it will tile it on the left or right half of the screen.
That's what it should do.
Exactly. And ditto, you can drag it off, and it goes back to the way it was. Now, the keyboard shortcuts are actually pretty obvious when you think about it. It's Win key plus any of the arrow keys. Oh. So Win key plus up arrow, maximize.
I'm going to like this.
Current window. Yeah. Win key plus down arrow, minimize the current window.
It's funny, this seems like trivial stuff, but frankly, in a GUI, Windows management is among the most important things there.
Yeah.
Because you're always shuffling windows around and trying to get to the windows. And
right. As a writer, I actually hate taking my hands off the keyboard.
Uh-huh.
And actually, on a side note, I've been testing a lot of Microsoft keyboards and mice, and what I've discovered recently is that I have been living what I didn't realize was a very tenuous sort of lifestyle with my keyboard and mouse, because I use this particular setup I have every day, and I have no problems with carpal tunnel syndrome or any of those kind of aches and pains you get in your wrists and so forth.
Yeah.
But I make the slightest change, and my wrists flare up immediately. And one of the things that really affects it is the mouse, and I don't know why that is, but I change mice, and all of a sudden my wrist or the top of my hand, killing me.
It's as if you've kind of gouged grooves in your carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
And if you change it, then you feel it.
It really bothers me because for years I've been using the same setup and it's worked perfectly. And then I start moving between keyboard and mouse types, and all of a sudden and now I can't get it back. It's freaking me out. But anyway, it's nice not to have to take my hands off the keyboard. I actually really appreciate this. And these are great keyboard shortcuts. So that's cool.
Fantastic. No, it is really good. I look for, it's silly, but that's a big part of how a GUI works is, it's window management. And I look for that kind of stuff. And, and I frankly think that most solutions are imperfect. This sounds like a good one.
It is a good one.
Yeah. And now, I don't have any fanfare.
No, it's okay. It's kind of a flatulent sound of some sort.
It's time for the software of the week. We used to do that when I was in radio. You'd make all these little drops.
Radio voice.
You'd make these drops, like I did. We had a guy on in the morning crew named Pete Franklin, was an old timer from New York. He was very famous. Like this. And I would do all these things. And now it's time for the Nudnik of the week. And I'd make the music and the stuff like that. But I kind of miss those days a little bit, not a lot.
Mark my son is gesticulating wildly outside of my office because clearly it's been more than an hour and he really wants to play Call of Duty.
Oh, you let him play Call of Duty?
I do. I have to. He's better than I am.
Is he?
Whoa.
Yeah. Wow.
That kicked ass.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
He does have kind of a Beavis quality to him, but he's really good at it.
Now, what is his gamer handle? So I make sure I don't play with him.
His gamer handle is Mark Thurrott.
All right. We'll be able to keep track of that.
Speaking of old-time radio.
Yeah, I thought I'd just start dropping those in.
Last week I talked about the Microsoft, I just forgot the name of it, Security Advisor?
Yeah.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah, something like that. Something generic like that,
yeah. So apparently they're not the only people that make a tool like this. So Secunia makes something called Secunia PSI.
Yes.
And
that's a great product.
Reader or listener, Dixon Long, suggested this one. So actually I've been trying that lately. And by the way, it runs fine on Windows 7. One of the interesting things about Windows 7 is that a lot of antivirus software doesn't run correctly. I've had to go back to ESET, what's it called? What's the ESET security AV program? Whatever that's called.
ESET Nod 32. I should know. It's a sponsor of my show.
There you go.
Which I love, by the way.
They actually happen to work fine. I've had weird issues with AVG. Doesn't work quite correctly. One of the components keeps turning off for some reason. And
I'm not surprised Nod 32.
Well, how about this one? Microsoft OneCare won't even install.
What? Microsoft's own product? Wow.
Yeah. You gotta, it's funny because they admonish people for checking version numbers, and then their own application checks version numbers. It doesn't work.
Of course.
But moving along.
Yes.
Secunia PSI, as Personal Software Inspector, is basically a vulnerability scanner for the computer. And what's cool about it is it works with third-party applications. So it goes out there and it looks at things like Firefox and Adobe Reader and Flash. And it finds those things that are not completely up to date, and then provides you with a list and links to go get those updates. So you can update non-OS components of your system to the latest, more secure versions. And as with the Microsoft tool, I actually found a couple things on my system which I was sort of interested by. So certainly valuable. So it's free, and it's basically a little web app that runs in a window that you download. So it's it's lightweight and so forth. But it's a great little tool. Definitely something you should check out.
Hey, I meant to ask you this when we were talking about the window gestures and the window keys. It's been on Dig, and it's kind of floating around now, this Windows 7 shake gesture.
Yeah.
Does that work?
I have not seen this, but I've been told that it is true.
It's a really cool idea.
Well, it reminds me of the shake the shuffle thing that I just made the wrong hand gesture. That they have in the iPod. What do you call it? The iPod.
The phone, the iPhone.
No. It's in the...
in the new Nano. Yeah. Where you shake it to randomize
shake it, and it shuffles the song list. So it's kind of like that. You grab the window by the title bar, and you shake it, and it minimizes everything else.
Okay.
It's sort of like hide everything. On the Mac, you can do something where... I've not gotten it to work, so...
okay. So it's not working on the Windows 7 that...
I don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten to work. I think it requires a bunch of things to be open, for starters.
Right.
Okay, so
it's kind of like...
you just did it.
Yeah, but this is a video from Microsoft.
There you go. Okay, so you
it's kind of like... Apple has kind of these things with Expose where you can kind of pick what you want to look at and stuff like that. I really think that this is key, as we have, even though our screens are getting bigger, so are the number of programs you're running in the background and so forth. You need these kinds of gestures, I think.
What this reminds me of, there's something on the Mac that's actually pretty unique as an option, and I don't. You would know what the wording is, but you basically go up to the Apple menu or the application menu, and you say, hide everything but this application.
Yes. That's been it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Because, you don't just want to focus on that one window. You just want to get rid of all the background noise.
Right.
And just show that one application window.
I think it's a good idea. Now, let me see. It says build 680. I can't quite read it.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, I think it's part of whatever that part of the system where the new taskbar is there and all that stuff. I think
Raphael will have to find a way to turn it on.
Yeah.
That little kid. I think Microsoft's he's a little hacker. Admit it. I think Microsoft's actually doing a really good job of getting people excited about Windows 7.
Yeah. And I've been critical of the way they've put information out about it, but now that PDC has occurred and they've done this big public thing, suddenly it seems like more of a strategy and less of a happenstance.
It's very cool. I just hope that they don't tease us and then don't ship it in 2009. At this point, it's almost like you better ship it in 2009. We're all getting excited about it.
Yeah.
And it's too late to save Vista. I think the word has gone forth. It's too late.
Yeah.
It's like everybody knows. Oh, good. I'm waiting for 7. Maybe not. Maybe the general public doesn't know, but certainly.
The way I think of this is there are a lot of companies who were sort of talking about, we're getting ready to do Vista, and I think they were thinking, no, we're not really going to do this. Right. And now that they've made this Windows 7 announcement, they can say, you know what, we're waiting for 7.
Yep.
I think people will continue to get PCs as they do, and Vista will come on it. I mean, going from Vista to 7 is not a huge leap. In fact, if you're not used to Windows Vista and you've been running XP for the past several years, and we're thinking about buying a computer this Christmas, for example, I don't know that I would hold off on that. Although I would like Microsoft to speak a little bit to the notion of, is there going to be some reward for people who are Vista owners, a cheaper upgrade perhaps, something along those lines. I would hope so, especially for those people who actually went out and bought, Ultimate Edition, which was very expensive, especially in the beginning.
Right.
And they really haven't gotten a lot of benefit out of that.
No. Still waiting for my Ultimate Extras any day now. Hey, are they doing? I saw that the beta says Ultimate. Are they going to do the same SKUs with the 7?
They haven't said. Yeah.
I guess why not? I mean, we're used to it. Well, yeah, we're used to it.
Well, we were used to all kinds of things, but life goes on. I mean, I would like to see them not do that again. I like to
too many versions.
A home version I think would be fine. A business version would be fine, and then one version that ties them all together. That would be enough.
Yeah, home, business, and ultimate maybe. Yeah,
that's
all
enough.
You need. And there will be 32 and 64, so you'll still have that.
Right.
For those of you who like multiple SKUs.
Hey, don't worry. They're going to confuse things. Don't think that's changed.
All right, I'm going to let you go to do your child care duties, folks. If you want to read up on all this stuff, Paul writes.
My son thanks you.
Yeah, he wants to play. Yeah, child care duties. I call it Gears of War 2. If you want to catch up on Paul's writing, they're all online there at the super site for Windows, winsupersite.com. Great site. Lots of good information there. He's also the news editor for Windows IT Pro. And quick, get Windows Vista Secrets. Brand new. Just came out, the second edition. In better bookstores everywhere from Wiley & Sons. And Paul, we'll see you next week on Windows Weekly. Oh, and don't forget to play Paul in Gears of War this weekend, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Right. I'll be an easy kill. That much I can promise you.
Take care, Paul.
You too.